Hello and welcome to this chapter. We were continuing the first chapter of your economics, that is the story of village Palampur. In last video, we discussed up to the factors of production, and in this video we will discuss about the condition of each factors of production in India. So we will discuss about the condition of land, which is a factor of production, through important changes in farming activities. What impact the changes in farming activities had on the land of India? We will explore that. Well, land area under cultivation is virtually fixed. That means that in most of the cases, the land which are cultivable, which are productive, are often fixed. The farmers or the peasants who depend on the land for production of farm products, they often use the same piece of land years after years. So there is no chance of increasing in the area of the land, because land is a fixed capital. The land cannot grow by its own. The size of the land is fixed forever. If a farmer, for example, is owning 1 acre or 2 acre or 3 acre of land, then the land cannot get multiply by its own. It cannot increase, it cannot grow. Only way of growing your land is purchasing more lands. So in that way, the land under the cultivation in India are almost fixed, because the amount of land that are owned by the farmers remain fixed. It might get transferred from one owner to another, but the size will not grow by its own. So land is a fixed capital, and we can otherwise say that the land is a fixed factor of production. However, because of some modern techniques or developments in modern cultivation farming, some amount of wastelands in India were successfully converted into cultivable land. You will study more about the types of land, that is cultivable land, wasteland, barren land, fallow land, like that, in your class 10th in more detail. So wastelands are those lands which are not productive, means cultivation is not possible on those lands, but those lands could be used for construction purpose or some other purpose. But the wastelands which are not of much productivity are converted into cultivable land because of development in modern techniques. After 1960, the conversion of wastelands into cultivable lands has successfully increased. Over the years, there have been important changes in the way of farming, which have allowed the farmers to produce more crops from the same amount of land. And after 1960 specifically, not only the wastelands were successfully converted into cultivable land, but it also, because of the development of modern farming techniques, it not only enabled to convert the wastelands into cultivable land, but at the same time it also enables the farmers to produce more from the fixed amount of land. From the same land, now the farmers can produce more by using modern farming techniques. And those important changes includes multiple cropping farming and use of modern farming methods. Multiple cropping means you can use the same patch of land at a given point of time for producing multiple variety of productions, for producing multiple crops. As you can see here in the picture, this is a land which is used for producing multiple crops, like four different kind of crops are visible here. So in multiple cropping, what you do, that you use the same patch of land in a particular point of time for producing multiple crops. And by practicing multiple cropping, the farmer can generate or can produce more from a fixed patch of land. Or you can practice the multiple cropping in other way, which is also called crop rotation. Well, these two are not exactly synonymous, where you do not use the same patch of land for different production at a time, but you use the same patch of land for producing crops or variety of crop after completion of one crop. You change your crops after producing one crop, you rotate the crop. Either you can do it like this, or you can you can rotate the crop in the same field. Suppose this time you produced maize, then you can next cultivate cauliflower there, next you can cultivate peas there, next you can cultivate tomato there, and like that you can also change the number of crops. You can use the land for producing 6 to 7 varieties of crop within a year. In crop rotation, we use the same patch of land for different products in different year. But in multiple cropping, you can use the same patch of land for different crop within a year. By following the technique of multiple farming or multiple cropping, a farmer can produce more from the same patch of land. The second technique to produce more from the fixed amount of land is using modern farming methods, which includes using of modern techniques like machineries like tractors, harvesters, etc., using more chemical fertilizers, using developed techniques like internet system in order to get suggestions from experts, using modern techniques to rear animal, and then proper irrigation system, which means where the farmer not only depend on the single source, that is the monsoon. In modern farming methods, the farmers do not completely depend upon the monsoon, but they also have some other irrigation facilities or artificial irrigation facilities. It also includes the use of HIV seeds, that is high yielding variety seeds, which is also called hybrid seeds. In HIV seeds or hybrid seeds, what happened that we can produce more compared to the traditional seeds. So by using the modern farming methods, also a farmer can produce more from his land. So there are two techniques which enable the farmers of India to produce more from the same patch of land. One is multiple cropping and the other is modern farming methods. Due to improvement in these farming techniques and methods, the productivity of land has increased substantially, which is known as green revolution. The implementation of all these modern techniques like using of HIV seeds, chemical fertilizers, artificial irrigation facilities, modern machineries like tractor, harvester, etc. This complete package, these whole techniques and methods which are used in the modern farming together known as green revolution. It is a complete package which is known as green revolution. And because of the green revolution, India has seen a complete change in the farming sector. Farmers of Punjab, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh were the first to try out the modern farming methods in India. And the Green Revolution has also succeeded much in selective areas like Punjab and Haryana compared to other states of India. But the Green Revolution has also some negative impact. Like every coin has two sides, the Green Revolution has also two sides. On one hand, it increased the production of Indian agriculture, but on the other hand, as it required more irrigation, more use of chemical fertilizers. So, on the other side, the Green Revolution also led to land degradation because of the more utilization of chemicals like pesticide, fertilizers, insecticides, etc. And as the Green Revolution also required more irrigation facility, because of more and more irrigation, the land loses its natural fertility over the time. And the same situation happened in Punjab. The farmers of Punjab are now facing land degradation or unfertility of land because of over irrigation. These are the negative sides of green revolution, which is quite controversial nowadays. So nowadays the controversy is whether to choose green revolution in order to maximize your profit, maximize your production, or to choose organic farming as it is less harmful for the environment as well as human health or animal health. So, after land, labor is the next basic factor of production. In India, the small farmers provide their own labor because first, they do not have much money to afford labor, and second, as their land holding size are small, they do not need much labor. So, because of these two reasons, they provide their own labor to their own field or to others' field in some cases. And medium and large farmers make use of hired labor to work on their fields, as the medium and large farmer have large land holding size as well as much capital. They can hire labor to work for them. So, if we talk about the labor situation, particularly related to the farming sector, in India, the small scale farmer contribute their own labor, whereas the medium and large scale farmer hire labor to work for them. Now let's relate the situation of farm laborers to the hypothetical Palampur village. In Palampur village, there are many landless families. So does in India. In Palampur, there are many landless families who do not have their own land, and so does in India. So, the farmers who do not have their own farming land but still they practice farming, they often provide their labor to medium to large scale farmers. As the work is less for the number of laborers, they are not given minimum wages set by the government. Some laborers migrate to the city in order to avoid such situations. Like we discussed in the last video, when we talk about labor in particular, labor are further divided into two types: skilled labor and unskilled labor. And mainly the farm labor and the labor who contribute to loading and unloading of goods, they do not require any specific kind of skill in order to perform that activity. And we discussed repeatedly that the work that is performed by the unskilled labor can be performed by anyone because that kind of work does not require any specific skill, like loading and unloading of goods, watering the garden, etc. So when there is more number of farm labor mainly in rural areas and most of them do not have their own land, so the only option for them is to contribute their labor to medium to large scale farmers. And because there are more number of job seeker than the availability of job, so automatically their market value decrease. And in rural areas, because there is lack of proper supervision by the government agencies, most of the landless farmers even get less than the government fixed price. Well, government decides a price which is called minimum wage rate in order to prevent exploitation of labor mainly. So government fixed a price below which you cannot find a labor or up to which you have to pay to a labor. the government of India fixed a wage rate for them in order to protect them, from exploitation. But most of the time in rural areas there is a lack of supervision, and because of that many laborers do not even get the government fixed rate. They get less wage than the government decided wage rate. Because of lack of job opportunity, they compelled to took the job. And in some cases, the landless laborers also migrate to urban area in order to get some better wage or better work. Like we discussed in your class 6th SPL, you have read about the organized and unorganized sector worker in your class 6th SPL in detail. Then the third factor of production, capital. After land and labor, capital is another basic factor for production. All categories of farmer, like we discussed in last video, that every kind of production work, whether that is farming production or non farming production, or secondary sector production or tertiary sector or service sector, any sector require the three factors of production, that is land, labor and capital. Capital is essential for everyone, but as we are discussing particularly about the farming activities, whether it's a small scale farmer or a medium scale farmer or a large scale farmer, any kind of farmer needs or require capital in order to purchase their inputs like seeds, fertilizers, etc. And for purchasing that inputs, whatever amount of capital they require according to their farm size or according to their production limit, mainly the small farmers of village area, they depend upon the village moneylenders or the traders who supply them various inputs for their cultivation. They mainly depend on those moneylenders and the traders. And in your class 10th you will read more about the types of credit, and the source of the credits are mainly of two types: formal sources of credit and informal sources of credit. You will read about their pros and cons more in your class 10th. So the village moneylenders, traders, they came under the informal sources of credit, and in informal source of credit the interest rates are very high and there is a high chance of exploitation of the borrowers. And the same thing happened to the farmers also. They get the capital, the credit easily from the village moneylenders and traders, but in return of that they have to pay a very large amount of interest, or they have to bear a great amount of loss. They never able to make profit by taking loan from informal sources of credits. There are various reasons why they look for the informal source of credit and not the formal sources of credit like banks, cooperative societies, etc., where mainly the large scale farmer depend upon, because in formal source of credit there is less chance of exploitation. But despite of that, small farmers look for money lenders, traders to get credit. And the reason for that is they do not have any possession to use as guarantee in the bank in order to extract loan. Second, they are mostly illiterate, which prevent them from involving in some documentary work. And because of that lack of awareness, illiteracy, lack of properties, they were forced to look after the money lenders and traders in order to extract credit. But the large scale farmer to medium scale farmer, they generally rely upon the banks, cooperative societies, which are secure source of credit in order to get capital, or generally they have their capital priorly ready in order to invest in their cultivation. The modern farming requires more capital. The modern farming, which includes the use of HIV seed, modern techniques, more irrigation, more machineries, more pesticides, Because of the kind of great inputs, it require more number of capital. So small farmer require less capital, whereas medium and large scale farmer require more capital. But the small farmers generally depend on the money lenders or the traders for getting the credit or the capital, whereas the medium or large scale farmer have their own capital or they depend upon the formal sources of credits like the bank, cooperative societies, etc., where there is a very less chance of getting exploited. Well, that's all about this video. Thank you.